There are a lot of interesting characters in the Rick and Morty series, but one of the most memorable and mysterious ones was Talking Cat. Why can he talk, and what was his backstory? The first and only time when this cat appeared is in the 4th episode of the 4th season. In the beginning of the episode, the talking cat was discovered by Jerry in his bedroom. After asking the cat where it came from, it brushes the question aside and merely requests that Jerry take it to Florida. When Jerry inquires as to why, the cat merely states that it wants to have fun there. After it plays volleyball with some partygoers on the Florida beach, the cat poops in the sand and barely covers it up. When one of the partygoers steps in it, the cat quickly shifts the blame onto Jerry. As the party continues on a boat out in the ocean, the cat becomes puzzled as to why no one has commented on how it was able to speak and continually asks the partygoers if they are at all curious. This causes the cat to be thrown off the boat and it swims back to shore. After meeting back up with Jerry, the cat is picked up by Rick, who drives them home. As they stop for a break, the cat is caught in an emergency box by Rick, who proceeds to start a mind scan on the cat to discover its origins. The cat begins to slightly panic and insists that it is simply from outer space and nothing more. This does not satisfy Rick or Jerry, and they look through the vision goggles. The sounds of mass screams and terror can be heard as Rick and Jerry viewed the cat's memory.
What in the... Oh, son of a... Jerry, don't!
I want to see.
No, you do not!
Both are horrified by what they see, with Jerry frantically crawling away to vomit several times and Rick nearly killing himself. The cat is set free and, when ordered to leave, protests that it has nowhere to go. Its pleas fall on deaf ears as both Rick and Jerry scream at it to go away. Dejected, the cat starts to cry and walks off into the desert. Rick erases Jerry's memories of the event. Later, the cat encounters the dragon named Balthramar from earlier in the episode after he becomes tired of a man's company and roast his car with fire. The dragon asks why it can speak, but the cat lowers its head and says the reason it can is shameful. After the dragon does not push the topic further, the cat asks how fast it can take both of them to Florida. We never hear from the cat ever again after this episode, and the show creators left the mystery around him ambiguous. Dan Harmon, the creator of the show, finally explained what the talking cat was all about on the DV commentary for season 4. The cat subplot was just an attempt to have fun, Harmon says. The cat represents that voice in your head in the writer's room that you're overthinking it. In the same commentary track, writer Jeff Loveness also explains the original inspiration for this idea, saying that came from like those movies like Oliver and Company and all that. They didn't really explain why the cats can talk. So it seems they left the cat's backstory as a mystery because this is like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Nothing they actually put in it will ever be able to live up to the mystery you put in your head, so it's best to leave it ambiguous. However, let's be honest, even if this is a creative way to handle the mystery, it is nowhere near being a satisfying one, but there are still little hints and clues throughout the show that we can use to logically assume what his backstory could be. The first thing that comes to mind while thinking about the creepy cats from the show is the one from the Interdimensional Cable episode, 8th episode of the 2nd season. The film Last Will and Testament Weekend at Dead Cat Lady's House 2 depicts an old cat lady named Mrs. Sullivan who dies early in the film, causing her cats to control her dead body like a puppet to make it look like she is still alive so they can remain on her estate. I tried to find the exact same cat that was able to talk, but I was unable to find him. Plus, these cats aren't really from outer space, but from the same Earth, but from the different timeline, and even though what they did was horrifying, it still had no effect on Rick, and it is also difficult to explain how they could talk from that movie. So I don't think these cats had anything to do with our talking cat. It had to be something truly disgusting to look at that was the reason why it could talk, but also not so justifiable enough that Rick would shoot the cat. Based on what Jerry then said about photos of my parents, I, and a few others, were thinking the scene was a reference to the Cats of Ulthar, which is a short story written by American fantasy author H.P. Lovecraft. The short synopsis of this story is something like this. An unnamed narrator, while gazing upon his pet cat, begins to reminisce about a law in the town of Ulthar which forbids the killing of cats and relates the story of how this law came to be. The tale begins with the introduction of an old cotter and his wife, who delight in trapping and violently killing any cats who venture onto their property. The people of the town are too afraid of the couple to speak against these acts, so they instead focus their efforts on keeping their felines from approaching the cotter's house. One night, a caravan of travelers from a distant land arrives and passes through the village. They bring with them an orphan named Menes, who, after having lost his family to a plague, has only a small black kitten to keep him company. After being unable to find his kitten on the third day of his stay, Menes hears the stories of the old cotter and his wife and decides to take action. Menes spends time meditating prior to unleashing a prayer that affects the shapes and movements of the clouds in the sky, granting all the cats of Ulthar sentience. The caravan leaves Ulthar that night shortly before the townspeople notice that all of their cats have gone missing. The townspeople suspect both the old couple and the wanderers, but the innkeeper's son, Atal, witnesses the felines circling the property of the cotter. The next morning, the cats have returned to their owners well fed, but the cotter and his wife have vanished. When the townspeople explore their abandoned house, they discover nothing more than 2 skeletons that have been picked clean. The local burgesses, after reviewing the evidence and stories of the townspeople, decide to pass a law that forbids the killing of cats in Ulthar. We can use the story of the cats of Ulthar as a reference for this talking cat. His story might have some similarities with the cats of Ulthar, but might not necessarily be exactly the same. In the same season, but the 6th episode, we see very interesting scenes. Some of the anthologies feature heavy story elements, though Rick points out that those events may or may not have actually happened, foreshadowing some events that will likely come in the future. In one scene, Rick fights Phoenix Person while Summer fights Tammy. Both fights were between those that were once friends during seasons 1 and 2, but turned to the dark side in later episodes. In the Star-Mort Return of the Jerry episode, we can see this scene happening, not exactly the same way, but the main motive was the same. In that exact scene, we see Snuffles, who is fighting cats, who appear to be as intelligent as them. Since in that same scene we see Rick and Summer fighting Tammy and Phoenix Person, who are allied with the government, it is safe to assume that the hyper-intelligent cats are part of the government as well. Maybe they modified cats in order to make them do their dirty work, and this is what Rick saw while he looked into the talking cat's backstory. He saw all the bad things that the government made the cat do. However, since it was not entirely his fault, he could not kill the cat. I think this theory is the best one we have about the talking cat and how it could talk so far. He's been one of the biggest mysteries in the show, and we will most likely never get the official answer on him, so this is all we have to go on. What do you think? What is the backstory of this cat and how could it talk? Let me know in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more. Lonnie Brooks out. Bye.